Incredible talent, a willingness to go all in on themselves, and surround yourself with the best at what they do is all part of the success formula for Austin Weiss. Find out what happened when he was a child that drives him to be who he is today. And as an added bonus, he even throws in a discount code for Grind Hard Ammo. This is the No Excuse to Miss podcast. Welcome back to the No Excuse to Miss podcast. I am your host, Scott Volkortson, and this week's guest is somebody that does it all, from building custom cars and motorcycles to his most recent venture into the firearms industry with Grind Hard Ammo. And I feel like he is just getting started. Welcome to the show, Austin Weiss. How are you doing, Austin?
Oh, man, I'm doing well. Well, quite the intro.
Well, I'm always amazed when I look at what you've all done and how much you have going on, and you're still a relatively young guy.
Yeah, I think my beard with the gray hairs seems to prove the workload.
So how about a little background of how did you get into, let's start first with like the custom cars and the metal fabrication, the welding, the motorcycles, that part of it.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I was always into like car stereos, and I was always really, really into lowered cars and, just customized stuff. I just was always into it. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It always captured my attention. So one year I was about 15, 16 years old. My friend was building lowrider trucks, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, man," I was just like, "I'd love to learn how to do that welding that you do." And he's just like, "Well, why don't you come help? And, we'll show you." So he started showing me how to MIG weld, and that was it. I mean, I was completely hooked at MIG welding the first time and starting to get the rhythm of it. Then I started to kind of want to take that a little further. So I went to a little local vocational school and took up some TIG classes at night. And I bar backed and bartended throughout the day, and sometimes on the weekends at some nightclubs to pay for school. And I got into TIG welding and really, really enjoyed TIG. I mean, TIG was really where I spent a lot of my time and just fell in love with the whole welding and fabricating and all that stuff. And one of my friends had worked at a really big bike shop, and he's like, "Hey, man, why don't you come over here and work?" So I went over there and applied and started building handlebars and just, mass-produced handlebars at this custom bike shop for a while. And then they needed help in the exhaust world, so I kind of jumped over to the exhaust side of the things and kind of helped out there. And then one of the lead fab guys quit, and I kind of got thrown to the wolves and started just, learning. And I mean, honestly, I went from, between Barnes and Noble, sitting in the how-to section of, shaping metal and reading some of the Ron Fournier and all those other books, to learning how to do it, some of it on YouTube at the time with the limited that at the time that was there. And then honestly, just a lot of trial and error. And then I was really fortunate. I had some amazing guys that had worked where I was working. And they really took me under their wing and really kind of started showing me some different steps and different ideas and how to do things. And I kind of took it from there. And then one year I just decided that, I had been promised, some raises and stuff like that. And it didn't happen. And I was kind of just left with, maybe I should do this by myself. And so I grabbed a small shop, 600 square foot little bay, and started just doing some stuff on the side. And little by little, I built it into a company. And then, it kind of took off. And when I was 25, I got 3 of my motorcycles were put into the AMA Motorcycle Hall of Fame, which was pretty cool. I'd won some big shows in Daytona and had, done really well there. Had a couple magazine covers, and it was great. And then the economy kind of took a dump. 2007, 2008, obviously you're kind of aware of with the housing market, and a lot of disposable income stuff kind of went out the window. So I kind of had to transition and kind of figure out what I was going to do. And at that point, everybody and their mom was building motorcycles, and I had a patent that I had designed for internal throttle. So I had redesigned what forever was this awesome thing of getting the cables for your throttle device into the handlebars and getting them outside, or getting them removed from the outside. It gave it a cleaner look. It was better, but nothing on the market had really worked really well. So I kind of worked with a local CNC company, and I patented a internal throttle device, and it did very well, like very, very well. Sold a lot of them. I'm still very proud of that piece. You know, that was my first patent, and that was something that was really cool that I was able to do. It was mechanical patent. And then somebody from Taiwan, anybody listening to this that's in the motorcycle world will know exactly what I'm talking about, knocked it off and started selling it for retail less than I could produce it domestically. And I was just like so irritated and so over it. And even with my patents, and I went everything I could do, I kind of got a cease and desist. And it was just a nightmare. You know, at the end of the day, it was just a total headache, and I was over it, and I was just done. So I decided to transition into doing some, you know, restoration work on some cars and doing some crazy things like that. And I got a call one day and asked, "Hey man, would you be interested in restoring this car?" I didn't really know too much about it. I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's all aluminum." I went and looked at it, and it was just this crazy project. So we took it on, and, you know, I kind of just focused on, you know, this restoration for the next few years of my life, and kind of just redeveloped what I was doing. But throughout all of this, I always had said to myself, it's like, I gotta do something that I can scale, and I need to do something that I can, that would work no matter what the economy looked like, no matter what climate we were in, no matter what. I needed to do something that I could build it to a different level of not me doing it by my hands every single day. And that is where I decided, and it was weird because I went from two different things. I went from, am I going to get into the gun industry? Because I'm an enthusiast, and at the time I was doing a lot of gun reviews, and I was working with a lot of different brands, and it was really working. You know, a lot of people were seeing it, and they knew that, you know, the things that I would bring up and some of the guns I was showing, you know, either people hadn't seen before or was new technology. And ultimately I decided, you know, hey, I want to get into the world of ammunition, because that was one of the spots that I always, anytime I would review a gun or anything to do with the gun community, the shooting stopped when we ran out of ammo. And I was like, you know, I'm gonna make ammo. And it was just something I told my wife one day. I was like, I'm gonna make ammunition. Like, that's what we're gonna do. And I'm going to find the best people, and I'm going to figure it out. And that's what we ended up doing. Is I spent about 4 years building this brand and hiring and putting people in place that I'm just extremely proud of, and I couldn't be more excited about where we're going and what we're up to. So, I mean, that's like in a nutshell what happened.
Well, and so many little things in there that I want to ask you about. You know, obviously, sure. I've seen the work you've done. You're amazingly talented on the metal fabrication side. Where did the business side, because I've watched and seen what you do, you know, with both businesses, and respect the hell out of what you do there. Where did your business prowess come from? Have you always had that, or is that something you just learned along the way? And
honestly, I learned along the way. I really, really lean on some mentors. I have some really awesome people that are very successful in business, you know, that I've always asked their opinions. You know, sometimes their opinions don't even jive remotely with mine, and that's okay. Sometimes their opinion is right on the money, and I'm glad, you know, that I took their opinion for it. A lot of times, you know, even after getting a bunch of different opinions, I still just went with my gut. You know, a lot of people told me, don't get in the ammo industry. It's hard. You're never going to beat Remington. You're never going to beat Vista. And that's never been my goal ever. You know, I know that those aren't anything that I'm going up against. My goal with ammunition was to design and develop and to constantly push the technology and to constantly make things better. Like I did with the internal throttle. You know, I took something that had already existed and had been out, and then completely reinvented it in a way to where it improved the usability of it. It improved the feeling of it. It improved the reaction. Everything about it was better. Ultimately, with ammo, we're doing that with multiple things, with technology and how we're producing cases, and technology and how we're going to be producing primers, and how we're going to be doing it is the biggest one. The automation in the factory, tons of automation to remove a lot of the mechanical or human error. And it's not to say that humans can't do it. Humans totally can. I mean, you still, guys that, will know this, that load at home and that, that are very precise about what they're doing and weighing all their projectiles and weighing the powder out perfectly and weighing the cases and maxing everything to the exact grain of just to the utmost. Well, we're doing that on a production level. We're weighing the projectiles as they come out off the lines. We're weighing the cases off they come off the line. We're measuring it on different types of QC equipment. So all of that of what people do at home, we're going to be doing, or we are doing on a mass production scale. And ultimately, as far as business, it's just, I mean, honestly, I've learned a lot of mistakes as I've gone. I've made mistakes. I mean, if anybody's ever said they've never made a mistake in life or not screwed something up, they'd be lying to you. So, or
they're not trying very hard to do anything.
I think the biggest thing, and I have it tattooed on my leg, is persistence overcomes resistance. It was an old Marine drill sergeant buddy of mine who I used to fly remote control helicopters with. I'll never forget this guy. His name's JC. He's this big, monstrous drill sergeant, black dude, scary as shit. And he told me one day, he's just like, listen, he's like, sometimes you screw up and that's okay. But he's like, persistence will always overcome resistance. And I ended up getting tattooed on my leg. And every time I've either failed or screwed up, I've just got back up, dust myself off, and just keep moving. And we'll continue to try and continue to push.
Well, and that's something I've heard you talk about before in another interview where you talk about like your willingness to dive into something new. I think for most people that had what you had going on with the, the garage part of things, that they would have been very hesitant to completely shift gears and go into like the ammunition business, especially when you have other people saying, don't do this. You're never going to make it.
Yeah.
But I've heard you talk about like, you got to throw fear, or you got to face those fears and just dive in regardless of any excuses we tell ourselves why it's not the right time.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's like having a child. You'll mind. I mean, I don't know if you can curse, but you'll mind fuck it forever. Is this the right time? Is this the right time? Is this the right time? Is this, look at the world. Look how crazy everything is. And am I going to have a child? How can I bring a child into this world? And then after you have the child, you're like, how the hell did I ever live without this child? You're like, where was my life? And what was I doing before having this child ever? So, I mean, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in a relationship. I mean, gosh, I remember meeting my wife, and, I grew up in Miami Beach. I was very fortunate to be around a lot of beautiful women and see a lot of pretty people. And pretty's one thing. Like we all know that beauty is skin deep, okay? And then past that is really what people are, because age will change things. People will eventually get older, and the beauty will to some might subside or to go away or whatever. But what's internal, that soul, that fire, that connection, that science, whatever you want to call it, that matters. And it's just like anything in life. Like if you don't take that chance, and you don't, try, then you're going to spend the rest of your life regretting it. And then you're going to constantly wonder, what if? I would rather try everything in my life to do something that I genuinely felt was right and fail, and then try again and fail and continue to try until I died, than to never try and to say, what if? No way. What if sucks. I'm not that person.
Yeah, and I know when, they do those interviews or they've written books about like interviewing people on their deathbed, they'll always say, what's your biggest regret? And so many times it's that they didn't take more chances. They didn't, they were too worried about what other people would say or whatever it might be.
100%. One of those said mentors, he passed away a couple of years ago. I had built a couple vehicles for him, big client of mine, local guy, awesome. and I sat down with him, when he was really sick in the hospital, and I just kind of picked his brain, and because I spent a lot of time with him anyways. You'd come and hang out at the garage when I was, when we were working on his cars, and, my guys, they all tell you that he was just such a great soul, and he was so cool to hang out with. But, he said the same thing. He's just like, I asked him, I said, what do you regret? And he goes, I regret not spending enough time with my kids. And he goes, I regret, he goes, I regret a few things I did in my life. He goes, but other than that, he goes, I really lived a full life. He goes, I really did. He's like, I was fortunate to have grandchildren and to kind of adjust that, the mistakes he made with his kids and not spending enough time with them when they were younger. But ultimately, he said, because he didn't care. He pushed everything aside and he did it. He built this monster business, super successful. And he said, when he's leaving this earth, because he knew it was his time, that it was terminal. He said, he goes, I don't really regret anything but the time I didn't spend with my children and a few other small things. He's like, but other than that, it's because I just went out and I did it. He goes, anytime I was afraid or anytime something sucked or anytime I didn't want to do it, I did it anyways. And I mean, ultimately, it's kind of like, people that they just either are going to do it and they're going to be happy that they did, or they're going to be miserable that they didn't. And that's the part that sucks, is because you really don't get it. You don't get another chance to do it. You know what I mean? Like you can plant the tree today and in 20 years, you'll be thrilled. Or in 20 years, you can plant the tree and wait another 20 years and you'll be thrilled then. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's like, when do you really get to appreciate what you spent that time on?
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. And something I noticed, like you talked about your wife, and if I remember correctly, she still works for you or with you, correct?
Oh yeah. No, so we work together every day.
How do you guys balance that? Because I know, I'll be completely honest, my wife and I do not work well together.
Right. Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, a lot of people ask me that. And I mean, honestly, my wife and I have always worked well together. So that's very difficult because I know there are couples that can't work together. You know what I mean? Like that's just, I guess, the nature of the relationship. Katie and I, we're very fortunate. We're best friends. We're a married couple. We're a husband and a wife. We're a mother and a father to a little girl together. I think because we've been through so many challenges with in vitro, infertilization and going through in vitro and the failures through that, and the ups and downs through businesses and in life together, I think we've kind of grown, I don't know, a different type of relationship, I guess. But at the end of the day, I mean, Katie and I have always worked well together. And I'm very fortunate for that, because I do know that there are some couples that cannot. So I honestly, I get asked that. I don't know how I balance it. I mean, she's my best friend. She's everything. So I enjoy spending, I enjoy my time with her. I enjoy hanging out, and we laugh together and we joke together and we love together. We cry together. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I am very blessed, and I do know that.
Well, that is awesome. So another question, and I know this is one, probably something that I've always struggled with too. I've gotten much better at, but when you start hiring people to come on board and work in your garage, where I would imagine early on, everything, you had your hands on every single aspect of that.
Yeah. In the very beginning, I did. And then I started really having to find help. And I went through years and years of people and struggles and failures and mess ups and mistakes and fixes and whatever. And, at the end of the day, it's always on me, because it's my name at the end of the day. It's my company. It's my business. It's on me. I get it. And a couple of years ago, I would say about 2.5 years ago, I got like my first all-star player at the garage. I'm just over the moon with him, and he's still with me today, and he runs the garage for me full time. And then he hired one of his best friends, and they moved down. So now they both live down here, and those guys manage and run the garage for me. And I mean, seriously, there's no way I could do ammo. No way I could focus on ammo, because I legitimately live 100% dedicated to grind hard ammo. I am 1% involved at the garage as far as my time. And the reason, even with Grind Hard Art, with the signs and all that stuff, because how much we're building the ammo company, I have literally had to dedicate 100% of my time to it. So I have put my guys, Justin and Brad, in charge of the garage, and I am over the moon happy with the work they're doing and the quality and they're managing everything. They're managing the customer, they're managing the build, they're managing the ordering, this everything. And I'm very lucky because, Brad used to run a garage and Justin's they're both very smart guys, and they understand how to handle, QuickBooks and how to work with our accountant and how to get everything managed and bill and order. So I would say if I did not have them, I would probably have closed the garage and made it just like a personal man cave for me, just to have a workspace and not have taken any more business on. But because I had gotten so fortunate and hired such a all-star little squad down there, I've been able to really focus on ammo.
So early on, did you ever have any issues thinking that if you show them how to do everything you knew how to do, that they would eventually pick up and leave and start their own? You
always have that. You always will have that, but I mean, for me, it's like, I pay them very well. That's one of the biggest things with me is, I pay them very well. They, I never get in their way. I don't tell them how to do their job. I tell them my ideas. I kind of tell them what I want it to look like. I kind of give them direction, and then I let them roll, you know what I mean? And I stay out of it, because when I did it full time, that's how I wanted to be treated. And I just treat them how I would want to be treated and give them, the tools they need. And, and when they need something, we get it. And that's it. And it's the same thing at ammo. I mean, I would not be where I'm at without the right team that I have at ammo. And I mean, I could say that without the team in any business, you're gonna struggle. And when you can finally get the right people, and I mean, putting the right people. Now, there's right people and wrong people for every job, but in my opinion, there's really no dumb people. They're just people in the wrong positions. And sometimes people, because they don't know anything else or they haven't tried to apply themselves, they feel like they're stuck in this one little avenue, and that's where they're at. And they might not be really good at it, but they'll get by. For me, it's always about finding people their strengths. Where are they really good at? And then let's capitalize on their strengths. And, and that's something that I've always just tried to find. I'm not trying to find the faults in people. I'm trying to find the strengths in people and capitalize on that. And then that way it helps them. I mean, I don't care, if somebody comes and works and, and learns a bunch of stuff from the other guys, because ultimately I'm not really at the garage. I mean, every day I'm either at ammo, at the new building, or at the primer facility we're building, or at the current facility we're building, or at the current loading facility. So I'm not there. So if somebody came in there and worked and learned a bunch of stuff, they'd be learning from my guys, and yeah, they'd be picking up a ton of information. And if they left, they left. I'm not going to force people to stay. I'll pay them well. I'll treat them well. I care about them. Those guys are family, and they know it. And that's the best that I can do. And
at the end of the day, you can't really do much more than that.
No, I really, and that's it. And I've learned over the years, you got to pay people right. You got to treat people right. You know what I mean? And that's because I remember being treated incorrectly, and I hated it. I hated the way it made me feel. I hated feeling, subpar. I didn't like that. So, now at the end of the day, it's get the right guys, hire the right people. Same thing at ammo. I mean, all stars. I mean, I am so over the moon with the team that we have, the team that we're building, the team that we're going to be putting in place, the positions that are opening up and the abilities, who wouldn't want to work in sunny South Florida, get paid well to work in an air-conditioned facility in an amazing town with the most amazing sheriff that, the guy's awesome. So it's like, all right, so you want me to move to where there's a beach and it's a red county and we don't have any stupid protests happening and we're not getting shut down and there's no mask mandates and all that other stuff.
If people follow you on social media, they'll also see, the equipment that it looks like you've invested in the shop is, I know state of the art gets overused, but that is exactly what you guys are doing. the place looks pristine.
Thank you.
You know, the equipment, being in the business that we're in, obviously we understand a little bit about equipment and how a shop normally looks.
Yep. Yep.
And we take pride in what we do, but even seeing what you have going on, like, takes it to another level.
And I appreciate that, especially coming from you, because I do know you. I do know your work. I do know what you guys build. And by far, the nicest, most amazing, I mean, just over the moon. I love my guns that you've built, and they're second to none. So, I mean, I coming from you, I appreciate that comment. So,
well, you're welcome.
It's a very nice compliment.
And someday I'm going to come down and I want to visit sometime when I'll probably wait when it's about 10 below here.
You are more than welcome. I won't be building any 22 for a while. And I don't think it's on the horizon. I have no desire to be in that market at the moment, even though it's a huge market. It's just a totally different animal.
It's a completely different animal.
Yeah. So, but I mean, equipment is key. There's a lot of really important aspects. People are like, what's the one thing in business that, helps, build a brand or not build? There's so many parts. You got to have a really good product. You got to have the product to sell. And then you got to have the people to make the product. You have to have the equipment to make the product and consistently make the product. And then you have to have someone's got to sell this product. And then you got to get it to the person. And then you got to make sure that the customer has, if they have any issues, that there is a warranty or there's something. And something that I've always done in whatever business it's been in, if they were selling internal throttles or vehicles or motorcycles or now ammo, we warranty it no matter what. It's 100% warranted. So a customer can call me and say, hey, something's not working right with this, that, and the other thing. I will we'll take care of it. We'll send him out new ammo. We'll swap it out. I'll get his ammo back and we'll test it in house to see if there's any issues. And if there are issues, we'll pull it. And, we've been very fortunate. We've made hundreds of millions of rounds, and we have not had, any issues that have been outside of either primer failures from, old primers or anything of that nature. So, I try to tell people that I'm at the mercy of the equipment and of the material going in. And right now, I'm very fortunate and have, state-of-the-art equipment. What's coming is we'll be producing our own primers, and we will be producing our own case, and we will be producing our own projectiles. So we've already started producing our own projectiles. Cases are coming on next, and then primers will be shortly after that. And then that way we can control everything.
Were you planning on going down into the manufacturing of primers prior to the last year and a half? Or did the last year and a half just kind of realize what was out of your control? I realized
about a month into the riots that there was going to be a massive primer shortage. And I sat down with my business partner. I was like, hey, listen, we're going to need to really stock up on some primers. And we did. We stocked up. We stocked up with what I felt was just an absorbent amount of primers. And believe it or not, we blew through so much material and went through so much ammunition so fast. And it kind of got to the point to where we had, our suppliers, CCI and ultimately Vista, they're saying, hey, no more primers. We're not selling primers anymore. There will be not even a price increase. Their price increases, they went up 4 times last year. And on their 5th price increase in the course of, I think, 390 days, so just over a year, there has been now there's no primer sales indefinitely. So that kind of led us to believe, well, that means they're going to be holding them all internally. So with that said, we started to develop our own primer facility. And primers are dangerous. You're messing with high explosives, you're messing with a lot of stuff. So before even touching that field, I wanted to find and hire the best people to do it, that have done it, that have been doing this. Not people that said they can, not people that think they can. No, people that actually have done this for a long time. Now, I can't say who I hired. I can't say who I brought on. But what I can say is they're probably, I would say, the best, if not some of the best in the country for this exact thing. And they are ultimately in charge of building out the facility. And, my partner and I want the best, state of the art, no cut corners, nothing. And that's ultimately what we're building.
And maybe you can't say, but is your ultimate plan to sell primers on the, outside of Grindhard Ammo?
Oh yeah. So there will be Grindhard primer, and that will be a product that will be sold to other OEMs. It will be products sold to other arsenals, and there will be products sold on the retail side. We plan on selling a full line of components from cases, projectiles, and primers. And, so people that want to load at home, they can do that. People that want to reload, and just want to buy our Projos and primers, they can do that. If people want to load all new, by all means. And that's ultimately where we are. And see, something that we're doing, and, like our 9mm cases, we're making them 9mm plus P wall regardless. Even if they say plus P or not, we're still going to have a plus P product. But, certain things that where we can, it's so minute as a cost difference to do it. It's like, just why not? You know what I mean? Like, why not just produce it that much better? So regardless if it's, we're not going to have a range quality and a match quality. All of our brass will be considered match quality.
And I think sometimes it's hard to, when there's a better way to do it.
How do you cut that corner?
How do you cut that corner and put your name on that?
I don't understand it. No, it's like, I can't. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, people are like, why don't you get into steel? Like, during this whole shortage, I had access to get a bunch of steel cases. And I'm like, I don't want to run that through my equipment. I don't want to, and it's not that anything's wrong with it. It's that's not it. But it's the wear and tear it puts on the machines. It's the wear and tear it puts on, the guns. I mean, the reality of it is no one's going to outshoot the guns. I mean, some hardcore guys might outshoot them, but steel case ammo works. It's just the wear and tear it puts on our equipment wasn't worth it, because when we're producing 240,000 9mm in a day, when we're running 3 shifts, that's a lot of ammunition. You know what I mean? Every day to produce that. So it comes out to what's the wear and tear on the equipment. So we stay with brass because we know it works. We know what we can hold. The biggest thing that we are excited about is partnering with the best powder producer in the world, and them building the powder or giving us the powder that we've worked with them to help develop. And I'm excited about it because that's still the one thing we won't produce is powder, but we will be direct, and we are direct now to be able to do that with some of the best people in the world.
Well, and that's the one, it seems like that's a very common theme that every time, whether you're hiring somebody or working, in partnership with another company, is you always seek out the absolute best at what they do.
Yep.
Which, obviously is going to result in a higher end ammunition, whatever you're doing, the ammo, the primer. Mm-hmm. It's just a unique mindset that you have that, you're always seeking those that are the absolute best at what they do. So, because I know you're an extremely intelligent guy, but it seems like you are very willing to bring on guys that you feel are smarter than you at a certain subject.
100%.
Which a lot of guys can't do that.
Listen, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, there's a problem. All right? Then I'm in the wrong room. I'm not learning. I'm not gaining anything. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I live. I am 100% will tell you that my special, like what I'm good at, I know my limits. And anytime that my limits are where they are, I always will go out and hire the best people, and I will listen. There's a lot of people that'll hire the best people and then won't listen.
They don't let them do what they do great.
What's the point? What are you doing? What are you really spending your money on? Why are you paying somebody this top dollar and you don't even listen to what they say?
Yeah. We've been there, and it's something early on that I actually struggled with where, allowing people that were really good at what they do to actually just go do it and quit trying to micromanage them.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I start doing that, I would realize, wow, they're way better at that than I am anyway.
And then think about how much you learned from them.
Yes.
And then you can then compound that with the knowledge and the ideas that you have internally in your mental, cortex that you want to bring to market. Now you're learning from them, and you're like, holy shit. Okay, well, if that works, then what about doing it like this, this, and this? And then you completely go back and forth. Listen, I am where I am because I have hired the right people as the team. It's like, and I put this on my bio, I'm the janitor. I am no better than anybody else in this building and at any place. You know what I mean? Like my garage is where it is because of the guys that I have working there. The ammo is what it is because the team that we have put in place and the team that we're building. And it will continue to grow because first and foremost, I have the right partner that understands this thing, because there's a lot of partners out there that will, they want to just, it's all about, cutting corners and this, that, and the other thing. I have the right guy who understands that it doesn't work like that. You have to buy the best equipment. And he built his business, that he's built and sold doing that. He had the premium brand in his space. So he knows that. And it's nice when you finally can link up with somebody who understands that, because it takes an army to do what I'm doing. And I'm fortunate to have those guys.
That is awesome. So how challenging has this past year been, knowing there's ammo sales available out there, not being able to probably supply the way that you would want to?
That's been a massive challenge. It's been a massive challenge because I hate to say no. I hate saying no to customers. And, for a while, it was like when I was building the company, it was like, man, it'd be really cool if I saw my product in here. Or it'd be really cool if I walked into this place and my product was sitting there. And then this past year, those stores reach out. Those stores hit me up, and they're like, hey, we want to buy, such and such million and all this other. And it's like, I couldn't supply it. And it's like it was such a hit, like not a hit financially, because, we just weren't there yet. We weren't ready yet to do that. So we were already at 100% capacity. So we were very happy with that. But to not be able to fulfill certain orders for certain customers, I was not happy with. And it's not just retail and it's not just wholesale. It was, law enforcement and, a lot of military stuff. And for years I was like, man, it'd be so cool if I sold ammo to this group or to that group. And then that group finally reaches out. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't sell to you right now. I don't have it. You know what I mean? And it's like, but what's great, the best news is, and like one of the things that really made me happy was they learned about the brand. They heard about the brand. They realized that it exists. They've, tested it. They went and shot it. Their groups and their people have done their due diligence and have tested it. And so they want it. They want the brand. They want Grindheart, which I'm thrilled for.
Yeah, and I would say
now it's as I spin up, now I'm able to say, okay, well, this month of, in January, we'll be going live with this, and this, and I'll be able to give you guys X. And then, June, I'll be able to give you guys this, and I'll be able to scale it for them, which is exciting. That part's really exciting because I didn't lose the customer. It was premature. And it was, hey, here's so-and-so, or here's what I can do. And I will meet those numbers when I get to this point. So that's exciting. But I wish I could have sold it, because I could have sold, oh my gosh, insane. It's literally mind blowing. I mean, we're talking insanity of numbers of how much ammunition people need. And, there's this huge thing. And like, I'm kind of noticing it. Like I get guys all the time, they'll hit me up or they'll DM me and they'll be like, hey man, I got a bunch of money and I want to start an ammo company. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, a few things. One, I was like, it's not like, it doesn't work like that. It's not like buying a franchise and you just turn a switch. I was like, there's a component issue. There's so many different issues that come into play. There's the people, like the ballistician and all the people that come into doing this, and, your metallurgist and all that you can't just start a company. And they're like, well, I have unlimited resources. And I'm like, okay, but even if you gave me $100 million tomorrow and I went to my partner and said, hey, we want to do this, this, and this, we couldn't even add it in. It's impossible because equipment is back ordered. Everything, I mean, down to stupid chips that run equipment are back ordered. So it's like, people don't understand that it's not tomorrow. And then they think it's easy because, oh, well, ammo's in such demand. Well, yeah, it might sound like it's great right now, but the issue becomes, how do you make it if you're not controlling your own supply. Because if I can't get primers at certain times, or if I can't get powder at certain times, or if I can't get copper at certain times, how do you expect to get it? So I was like, unless you're taking it out of the ground and doing it all from the ground, and copper coming out of copper and doing it, then I don't see it happening right now. I was like, if you would have told me 5 years ago, I would have told you, okay, well, you could do it this way and this way. But right now, it's all the big guys, they're all increasing their capacity. So you're now going to go up against them. And there's only so much copper on this world. So, yes, there might be a lot in the ground, but what I mean is coming out of the ground and turned into the material that we need. So that's where I see a big holdup.
And there's the people component aspect to that too.
That's the biggest one.
You have state-of-the-art equipment, but you can't just grab somebody off the street and come in and say, hey, you need to program this.
You can't even, if you could go buy all the equipment, and let's just say you can get through buying all the equipment. Let's just say you can get through getting all the material. Let's say you had all the material on the ground, all the machines on the ground. You had everything to load, but then you don't have the people to do it. And let's say then you load it. Who are you selling it to? You got to go find that person too. So it's just, there's so many aspects that it doesn't work like people think. It's like, it was very similar when I was in the motorcycle industry. It was like everybody and their mom saw, the American chopper guys. So they wanted to be a bike builder. You know what I mean? So next thing you know, all these bike builders popped up because it was easy. You could go on a website and order a bunch of parts and kind of bolt a bike together. Ammo's not like that. Doesn't work like that. They might see nice machines. Like there's some really nice machines that are out there that you could buy. And, there's some, prosumers, what I would call them, like the Mark 7 guys, the Revolution, they built a really, really nice machine, for a guy who probably shoots a lot, and wants more of an automated, it's kind of like a really upgraded Dylan. It works like a Dylan, but it's way nicer than a Dylan. And that's a great machine, and people are like, oh, I'll just buy a couple of those because they're $25,000 a piece and I'll get into the ammo business. It's not that easy. It's just not.
No. And if it were, I think we'd see a lot more people popping up, or people that have popped up would stay around longer.
Well, we run into a lot of guys, they'll call me and they'll be like, hey man, I got a bunch of components that I got to sell. I bought them and I can't get the rest of the stuff. Do you want to buy them? And I'm always down to buy it because we need it. So, it's like, yeah, they might have, somebody might have a couple 100,000 large rifle primers. I'll grab them because I need them, or they might have, small rifle primers. Okay, well, I'll take them. They bought it because they found it and then they couldn't get the rest of the components. And now they're just sitting with money out. So, their loss, my win. I'm happy with it. And they get their money back. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah, that works out. So I know obviously you're a busy man from everything we've talked about here. So I just have a couple more quick questions and then I'll let you go.
Dude, I'm good, man. Okay. Like I said, I'm cleared. I made time to do this because I've been promising to do it. And I finally just got time to make it happen.
And I do appreciate you coming on. Cause like I said, I know you're busy and I know you've been, had a sick child at home, so I hope all is well there. Yeah,
she's doing fine now. It was just a bug. I don't know. Something went through it. My wife had a little something going on, so we thought it might have been viral. So we were just all being safe and sound. I mean, we've been tested and COVID negative and stuff, thank God still, and I know there's people out there that are, with the whole variant, they're getting it. And some people, I mean, dude, this whole COVID thing is crazy. I don't know. It's like, I feel like it's a bunch of panic porn. And then, then I know people that got it. Like I lost a friend of mine who was my age who just got it and he died. And I mean, granted, he had some, he was obese and had some other health issues. So, was it just COVID or was it, his other things? I mean, would he have died if he didn't get COVID? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, man, it sucks, and it is what it is. And one of our guys that works for us, he's a captain of a fire department and he got the vaccine right when it came out and then he just got Delta. So it's just like, and he's fine now. He's healthy and nothing happened to him, but I don't know. I'm kind of like up in the air about it. I think they should just let people do what they want. If you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. That's it.
I would be in complete agreement with that.
It's like, if some people want to get it. Other people, don't force it on us. I mean, we can't go to Nazi Germany and show me your papers. I mean, come on.
Well, and that's what'll be interesting, as we start traveling for trade shows in the beginning of 2022.
I'm right there with you. I'll see you at Ewa. So think about it. Here is a Jewish man in Germany, and they're going to be asking to see my papers. So it's like, what do I do? And then it's like, I have friends that are doctors, and I'm like, yo, what do you recommend? They're like, stay away from J&J. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, Pfizer's doing really well, and Moderna's doing really well. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want either. And they're like, you want to go overseas? Yes. Okay. Well, then this is how you do it. I'm like, oh, I really don't want to take it.
Because March will be here before we know it for Ewa.
I know. And Ewa's been canceled too many times, and I'm just over it. And then we have SHOT Show, and then it's like, no matter what, every year at SHOT Show I get sick. I get like the SHOT Show flu. I'm sure you've gotten it once or twice.
Yes.
It's hell every single time. And I'm like, yo, I guarantee you this year, everyone will be like, oh, you got COVID. Well, what about all the other years that we all got deathly ill for a week and a half after?
Yeah, because I think it was, last time they had SHOT Show, we came back and probably half the people that went ended up down for about a week to 10 days.
Yeah, I was down for 10 days, week and a half, 10 days. I was done. I was smoked. I felt like I got hit by a train. I was like, what the heck? And what was crazy is COVID was just starting, right? So I was staying at the Trump Tower, and what I noticed was because I couldn't just walk there, so I had to take a cab back and forth. And every time I got out of the cab, I kept noticing all these people showing up wearing masks. And this was before the mask thing. Like, this is way before the mask thing. This was right when I think Trump had just did the ban on the whole China traveling and all that stuff. But when I got to the Trump Tower, I started noticing all these people rolling in, and I'm like, yo, what the heck is going on? Where are they all coming from? And they were just checking in. So I asked the security guard, I go, what's going on? He goes, I don't know. He goes, we've gotten this huge influx of Asian gamblers coming in that are just saying they're booking for like 2 and 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks at a time. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, they're getting out of China. And then sure as shit, China was locked down. And I'm like, wow. So it was really right around that time when I started noticing things were going to get really weird. I was like, this is going to suck.
You were 100% right, because it has.
Dude, shit's gone. I don't even know what's going on in the world anymore. I sometimes wonder, are we being punked? Because like shit is so weird and so confusing. And I'm just like, how does this make any sense? They say trust the science, but then when the science says otherwise, then it's called hate speech or it's misinformation. It's like, it's absurd. You can't have any critical thought. They just banned Rand Paul from YouTube because he made a comment about wearing masks. I'm like, this is absurd. They banned a sitting president at the time on social media. Absurd. Like, this is just nuts what's going on.
And then you see the people that are left on social media.
They're throttled.
Yeah. It's
like, I'm throttled. I know I'm throttled. Like, I mean, at one point I was getting about 140, I would say about 140 million views on TikTok monthly. Okay. Tons. They deleted my page, completely deleted the page. I appealed it. They gave it back. About a week goes by. They deleted it again. And they said they banned my IP. I'll send you the screenshot. So I can't even log in. So now I have to use a VPN to even get on TikTok for other stuff, because I made a TikTok for just like some personal stuff that I'm doing. And it's like, holy cow, nuts. And then with Instagram, I mean, I was getting anywhere between 40 to 60,000 views on my story, in a 24-hour time cycle. And now I'm like, I mean, shit, last week I was down to 1,000 views. Now I'm like at like 1,250 views.
And that's out of
absurd throttle.
That's out of what? What do you have, like 350,000 or 400,000 followers?
350,000 followers, right? My page does not grow at all anymore. It used to grow 1,000 people a day before all of this. It would grow 1,000 people a day, roughly. It would be between 800 and 1,200 people a day I was growing. And now I get DM after DM after DM of people being like, dude, I follow you. I haven't seen you in days. Even my own wife, she goes, Austin, I don't even see your post at the front anymore. She goes, I have to go look for your posts. It's crazy. And then, Project Veritas did that whole story about one of the insiders from Facebook that says, yeah, that's how they do it. They don't ban you. They just basically limit your exposure. So they push you to the end, or they put you at the very, very back of the story views. And, even still with people with turning on notifications and everything, I have people that send me messages all the time. Oh, I have notifications on, I have alerts on, everything, and they still don't pop up for you.
There's a couple people that I follow that I'll have alerts on, and I have to actively go out and search to see what they've been posting.
It's crazy. And it's like, yeah, okay, so they're not banning us. So it's technically, what's the complaint? Okay, well, they're throttling us, but there's really it's their terms of service. Someone needs to build, like someone said, oh, well, they did that with Parler. But see, the problem was Parler was being held on Amazon Web Services. So you got to be completely self-sufficient. Own servers, own everything. And I'm sure it's a fortune. It's not like it's 1, 2, 3. But it just needs to happen, and it needs to happen sooner than later, because this is crazy with what's happening. They have nothing. They have no recourse. The certain people can say certain things and have no fact checks put on them, and then they're wrong, right? Think about it. They've been wrong how many times? These guys have been wrong with masks and wrong with this and wrong. They said, oh, vaccines will protect you 99.98%. Now they're, with I guess the Israel one just came out, and I think it was like 44% effective. So your body's naturally better at protecting yourself than the vaccine. Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the scariest part to me is
dude.
They suppress anything that doesn't agree with their narrative.
Yep. The craziest one is the whole thing. Okay, so now they're putting masks back on kids, right? Which I'm totally against this, because first of all, kids are developing. The kids need to see facial expressions. They need to breathe. They need to have, they have to be free. If it was like a legit pandemic and it was like legit rampant and there was major problems, then guess what? My kid would be homeschooled, okay, if it was that big of a deal. But they come back and they say, oh, well, there was a test at the Duke University. Of course, they put Duke University in it that shows that masks work. Okay. But they had no control group. So they had nothing to put it up against. I'm like, how does anybody say trust the science, but then don't actually do an actual fucking investigation or an actual experiment? How do you have results without having a control? Somebody had to have control. You get it? Like, meaning there needs to be a whole nother group of kids that aren't wearing masks. So let's say 40 kids are masked, 40 kids aren't masked. Fine. But that's not what happened. So now they're just giving out this information, and they're like, parents are like, see, school boards are like now telling parents, if your kids don't wear a mask, your kids could be out committing murder. Get the fuck out of here. These people are out of their mind.
100%. And, my issue, I have kids. My youngest is going to be a junior in high school, but I've seen the way, even just the matter of the way these masks are handled on these kids.
Yep. They're disgusting.
They're thrown in the
kids
car.
Kids are disgusting anyways, in a way, dude. Like, they touch everything. We teach our kids, our part of being a parent is we teach our kids to wash our hands, to do all this. And then you see kids, they'll pick their nose, they'll pick their butt, they'll pick everything. And then they'll touch their mask. And I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, this is doing nothing. Nothing.
Yeah. If anything, it's probably making them, they're probably worse off.
I agree. And, the crazy thing is if you look back at Dr. Fauci's review of the Spanish flu, granted, he didn't write this one part, but he signed off on this report about the Spanish flu and why more people died because of wearing masks than actually of the Spanish flu, because of all the pneumonia and all of the other stuff that went along with it because of how dirty the masks were. But you can't say that anymore, because it's misinformation and considered a terrorist.
Fact checkers will get you on that one.
Fucking ridiculous, dude. Holy cow.
So I got two more questions. One that I don't think I've ever asked you this. When did you get into firearms?
Oh, so firearms, I got into firearms, well, one of my really good friends, this dude Scott, he used to work at at a local gun store. He got me my first AR. When I turned 21, though, I bought my first handgun. My first handgun was a HK USP Compact 40 cal, which I don't know any 40 cals at the moment, but this was my first gun. And I just carried that for a very long time. I thought I was good to go, right? And then one day I started talking to somebody, and they're like, dude, you can't just buy a gun and think you're good. Like, it doesn't work like that. You need to take some training. And I'm like, no, I got it. I played duck hunt as a kid. Like, and this is the problem with a lot of people is they go out, they buy a gun, they buy one box of ammo, they put it in their nightstand, they think they're squared away. I'm like, bro, you need to take some classes, homie, because you will quickly learn that you are not squared away, and you will quickly learn that you're going to need a lot more training than you thought. So I wanted to start training, and so I started taking some Krav, and I met another one of my, well, now one of my top guys, Tom, and all of these guys started telling me, they're like, hey man, you need to do this and kind of, train this way, train that way. So I would say about 11 years ago, realistically got heavy into collecting and into training, into the whole gun world as far as that. And then I had already had a pretty large following because of the bikes and the motorcycles and the cars, that people really liked, the gun stuff. So that kind of took its whole other life. And then some companies started reaching out and asked me to kind of do a review. And, who am I? I'm just a consumer. I'm not former military. I'm not former anything. I'm just a dude that likes stuff. And, so I started reviewing guns because people are just appreciated and respected just an average Joe's opinion. You know what I mean? I'm not a tactical guy at all. I have, no prior, I'm not law enforcement or any of that stuff. So they liked it. And, I started moving a lot of products for a lot of different companies. I never pushed anything I didn't truly 100% believe in. Like, sometimes people be like, oh, you just shill. That's total BS. I never pushed a product. I didn't need it. You know what I mean? I had my own companies and was making, good money doing all my own stuff. I didn't need this stuff. So I just really promoted product and really good stuff. And then I kind of learned what worked and what didn't work. And I got kind of like to the point where I was like, man, I keep building social media pages for everybody else. And building these monster companies, and we got tons of repeat customers and all this other stuff. And then at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, I'm a used up commodity, like I came in, I built this page, I gave them pretty much the play-by-play how to do it. And then I'm not really needed anymore. And then I'm out the door. So I kind of stopped doing that and just focused on building my own brand. And that's really, really why and how I kind of got into the gun industry. Is I just wanted to be safer, more prepared, and really know how to handle myself in any sort of a situation. And the way I did that is I went to a local gun store. I met a guy there that works behind the counter who we've since become best friends. I mean, to this day, he's like literally my best friend. And he now works and is the head of, he's now one of the top sales guys for ZevTech, which is a small circle because I helped promote ZevTech back in the day. And then later on, the guy who got me into guns is now one of their top sales guys. So it's kind of a full circle. And the owner of ZevTech and I are very close. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, guns to me were ultimately, I know that no matter what happens, it's up to me. You know what I mean? Like if shit hits the fan and I call 911, I know that, they're probably 10 to 12 minutes out. If I'm on the road and shit hits the fan and there's an accident, I know it's up to me with my med kit to kind of help, so I've been very fortunate and taken some combat trauma classes and some different, medical stuff that I've taken and learned. And ultimately I've had to do some stuff with people. I saw a couple bad accidents and jumped out and had to help some guys, and, that's about as much as my real world experience. But I was very fortunate because the firefighter that I spoke to when I was there, he was like, man, these guys are lucky you were able to put a tourniquet on them. He would have bled out. So, that was cool. That was something that was an honorable feeling, that I was able to do and I was able to learn. And it's like, you look at it, it's like, it's just a tourniquet. Yeah, but you can put it on wrong. So, a lot of people are like, oh, I carry 3 tourniquets. I'm like, have you ever actually put one on?
And when it's needed, it's a little more pressure situation than.
Yeah, like under stress on 95 while cars are speeding by and there's blood squirting and the guy's screaming, do you know how to put a tourniquet on? And okay, then if not, I would definitely recommend learning. And it's ultimately, I feel like movies give people like this false sense of reality. Like they never run out of ammunition. The guns never fail. They always have everything they need. Bullets never seem to hit them. And I'm like, that's not reality, dude.
No, not at all.
You run out of ammo really fucking quick.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that in some degree speaks volumes back to your willingness to ask questions and surround yourself with people that are subject matter experts.
That 100%. I wanted to be around, and it's to this day, I still always train. Like anytime somebody's like, hey dude, so-and-so is putting on a course, unless it's like it conflicts with my schedule. Cause right now I've been so focused on getting ammo built that I haven't had a lot of time, and the temperatures have just been through the roof. So I'm kind of like, I kind of don't train as much outdoors during the summer. I train more indoors when I can. And this summer I've been so focused on ammo and other stuff that I've just, that's pretty much been my whole goal. But, guys will for always like, hey dude, you want to do this course or that course, or there's this night vision course coming up, you got to do it. I'm always like, let's do it. Let's go. You know what I mean? Because I will always forever continuously to learn. And want to continuously learn and want to continuously improve, the knowledge I have, because at the end of the day, the more I train in any aspect, the better I am in those set aspects. So if I want to build better ammunition for, let's say, SWAT guys or, some guys doing some CQB stuff, then, okay, well, I'm going to train with these guys and figure out what it is that they need, where their complaints are, like running a suppressed 300 blackout, and getting sprayed in the face with gas. Okay, well, how can I minimize that with the right ammunition, the right gassing in the system, the right suppressor? All of these things I can now make better because I've trained and felt it, and it's not fun. It's miserable. So this is how we make it better. And that's what really pushed me to start looking for different powders that burn cleaner and, working with different silencer companies to build a can that doesn't, bleed back as much pressure, and adjustable, gas blocks to remove some of the pressure, piston systems, all of that stuff comes into just making the product better. End users get a better product. And for me, I train and I enjoy it and I get to learn.
Which obviously has paid huge benefits for you.
Yeah, I will always learn. I will always take classes. Some of my favorite classes I walk in there and I know nothing. I'm a complete sponge. I'll listen to everything. I don't care if I've listened to how to zero a rifle 100 times. I'm still the guy sitting there listening and taking notes, because maybe this one guy is going to say something different than the last guy, and that's going to click. And then all of a sudden, everything makes sense to me in a different way. Or maybe he has a different opinion on something that makes it very easy for me to find, to range that next target, or to measure and to get my dope, So always listening and always trying to just be better, regardless if I've taken rifle class 1 or rifle class 2 or whatever 10 times, it doesn't matter. I'll still listen.
And I try to do the same thing. And something I've learned too is it might even be something that we already know, but they have a better way of saying it. So if you're ever trying to relay that to somebody else, they've simplified what I used to make a very complicated process. They've simplified it like into 1 or 2 things, which makes it a much more teachable skill to somebody else.
Yo, totally. I took a private security detail course, and people are like, why? I'm not private security detail. But well, I have a wife and a child, and those are my principles. Those are my principles, my wife and my daughter. So I took a private security detail course, and the guy teaching the course is this amazing instructor, and he's just so well. He really knows how to get the lesson across. I mean, he can really get the knowledge from him into you and do it in a way that I had never seen before. And I still, to this day, use what he says in all aspects and about making sure that the person that you're speaking to understands not what you said, but what you meant. Because we can hear things one way, and I see this with the news a lot. People might hear something and they hear it and their brain processes it. But do you understand what I meant and what I'm trying to get? And that is where he really hit that home for me. And it was mind opening because, it's like, let's say, he would put it out in a way where, okay, well, like if you're in a situation, you're trying to explain where you are to support, and reinforcements, how would you tell them where you are if you don't know where you really are? And it's about explaining to how to get to where you are. And it was that one little tidbit of information clicked in my brain, and I'm like, holy cow. I was just like, all right. And I still, to this day, use it all the time. And, that is just something that I wasn't expecting to pick up in that type of a course, and some of the other stuff, even driving. I mean, learning how to do a J-turn, I mean, just backing out of a parking garage when there's a ton of traffic. It's like, who in the million years thought I was going to be J-turning? Now, granted, I don't J-turn out of a backing garage, but I will back out of a parking garage and get out safely. It's just little information that, they don't teach that in driving school. You know what I mean? They taught that in an EVOC course. So a lot of really cool stuff that you just pick up along the way that you might not think about and you'll use on an everyday life.
Yeah, as long as you're willing to listen.
That's it. You got to listen, man. You got to open the ears. And the thing too, that I'm like seeing a lot in what's going on, like in our country, and I hate to keep bringing it back to this, but that's ultimately what's happening is nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to hear it. And then when they do hear it, they think it's bullshit. It's like, oh, well, show me your facts. Okay, well, here, right? Like when I post things on social media, and I'm sure you've noticed this, there's always a swipe up, and there's always a link to where this came from. And there, in that link, there is always the support data and citing my work. Just like in high school, when you had to do a paper, and at the end you had to cite all your work. I do the exact same thing. I cite where I got the information from. And it's like, I'll still get labeled misinformation, or I'll get labeled this or get labeled that. And I'm like, the legitimate warning that they'll put on my stuff is exactly what I'm trying to say, but they'll still put it as misinformation. I'm like, no. What you just read and what you wrote is the exact same thing. But it's being said differently that they're all up in arms about. And it's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I hope we at some point, I never noticed fact checkers until Donald Trump came around. When Donald Trump got into office, I noticed fact checkers popped up out of nowhere. And it's just like, who are these fact checkers? Like, has anybody ever looked into the people that run Snopes? These people are crooked as shit. PolitiFact, crooked. These people are crooked. People are like, oh, well, Wikipedia. Wikipedia is bullshit too.
Yeah.
So,
and they all have an agenda that
every one of them.
So hopefully the world gets sorted out sooner than later.
I hope. I do. I really hope. I mean, I don't know what to say, because I sit there and people are like, you should be thrilled. I'm like, yeah, business is great, but I'm not happy that business is good because the world's falling apart. That's not why I want to do well. That doesn't make me happy. I look at our world and I'm like, I'm disappointed for our country. I'm like, what the hell, man? What is going on?
Well, and it's one of those things. Yeah, our industry has been super busy, but you almost have to be somewhat reserved about the success of our industry, because I'm sure you're the same way. We have friends that own restaurants, bars.
They're getting crushed.
It's been a horrible 18 months for them.
Horrible. They're like, man, you're doing really, and I'm like, yeah, I'm very fortunate. My industry's done well, blah, blah, blah. But I feel terrible because, I've watched guys who built their companies for the past 10 years, or longer, and they just got smashed, and then I got friends in California that are just getting smashed. And, I got a buddy of mine in Australia, and he's like, dude, they're on their 6th lockdown.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's like, we can't survive. He's like, it's absolutely insanity. I'm like, dude, you should move to Florida. Shit's wide open. Do whatever you want.
We're pretty good here in Iowa, too.
Florida is rad. Ron DeSantis is the man.
Yes, he is.
He is the man.
So one last question for you.
Sure.
And this one you can take whichever direction you want. But one thing I've noticed, and I always try to surround myself with successful people that I can learn from. And I found that typically many of them have had like one significant event in their life that has like kind of put them on the path they're on, even if at the time it may have been one of those things that seemed like the worst possible thing to them. Mm-hmm. Can you point to, because obviously you've been very successful. You have a lot of different things going on. Can you point to like one event that kind of put you on the path that you're on?
The biggest one, I've had a few major like earth-shattering events in my life, and some sucked really, really bad. Others weren't as nearly as bad looking back now as I thought they were then. I think ultimately with me, it was, my family, my life growing up as, my father was very abusive, physically, sexually, emotionally, all of those things. And I realized that like a really young age, I had to be away. So I spent a lot of time, out, and I grew up in Miami. So you can imagine it wasn't, being out in Miami is not like the safest place in the world, nor are you going to hang out with the right people. And again, like you said, our parents always made a point. My dad would say, "You are who you hang out with," and that's very true. If I show me your friends, I'll show you your future. that goes into who I was hanging out with. So I would say my childhood, honestly, one of the biggest events was just getting away from my father. I got around some really good coaches. I became a manager of we'll just call it quote unquote water boy of a basketball team. And those coaches really set me on the right path. They knew how to kind of guide me as far as like where my strengths were and where my weaknesses were, and kind of helped me figure that out. And that's ultimately what helped me figure it out in other people, is seeing how they coached me into, kind of who I am. And fortunately, I then met my wife, who's made me even a better. I can tell you this: if I would not have married my wife or not have met my wife, I would not be the person I am today. But that also goes to saying that I was led on that path, and that path was set to me by getting away from the toxicity. And it was hard because, I looked up to my father. He was my father, you know what I mean? And it was very difficult and very confusing, for a very long time on why he would do things like this to me and my family, my sisters and my brothers. But he was, and there's no fixing that. And that's just who he is. But you go back to that event, and that event is making the decision to not allow what he did to me to affect my future. See, some of my siblings, they don't, it's not the same. A lot of things have bothered them, and I understand it. I truly do. And I love them. And I try to support them as best I can. And, a lot of things have really affected them. For me, I've used it as like that fuel to never allow myself or anyone around me to be there. And that's ultimately said, okay, fuck this. I'm breaking these chains, because at the end of the day, I guarantee you his family abused him. I never met his parents. My dad was 45 when he had me, or when my mother had me. My father was 45 at the time. So his parents had already passed. So I never met them. But, I look at it like maybe he was abused, you know what I mean? Or maybe he was, whatever. And I never wanted to be that person. So I took it upon myself and, created my own life and got away from him as far as I can. And to this day, but still, we have zero communication.
I give you a lot of credit because I see how, the parts that you post on social with your daughter. And I know just in talking to you how much being a dad means to you. And how she's your
there was a lot of
world.
Infertility. We couldn't have a child for so long. We tried forever and ever to have a kid. We couldn't have it. I sold my only vehicle just to pay for in vitro, because I couldn't get the financing to pay for it. So, and insurance doesn't cover infertility. So that was a mission. So I sold my only vehicle that I had to pay for it. My wife and I shared a car for a year and a half just so we could afford to have Finley. And we only had one chance, and when the urologist did my original, diagnosis, he said, you have no motility, meaning my sperm don't swim. They're there, they just don't swim. So that was why we couldn't get her pregnant. And it was just like, man, this sucks. So he's like, listen, you can do it in IVF, and it's expensive and blah, 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 and you'll have a good chance. But you're constantly being told, oh, you're never going to have a kid naturally. So, okay, well, that was a big hit. So how do we fix this? And, I figured it out, and we went through in vitro, and we had our first daughter. So for me, it's like having her allows me to fix what I never had as a father, as a child. I never had that relationship. So I try to fix it with mine. And the way I do that is I see how my wife's parents are to her, and I see how they treat me. And so I kind of try to live and to act and to be that person. And in the beginning, it was scary, because it's like, am I already predisposed to be this evil person? And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I look at my kid, I'm like, how on earth could I ever harm her? How could I on earth could I ever harm anybody? And it's just, I take it very serious. And that's why my child is like my everything. And that because you see it. But to the people that don't know me, that's her. And I mean, right now we're trying for another with in vitro. We've had one failure. She had one miscarriage already, and we're on the second attempt now. And we'll know here in the next couple of days if it takes or not. And if it fails, then we'll do it again. And if it fails again, we'll do it again. And at some point, we will have another child, but I will not stop until I do.
Well, and that is just so inspiring, knowing who you are and how that works. And the fact that you chose not to let that childhood dictate your future. You didn't.
I think a lot of people do, though. I think that's the part. Like, you have a lot of people that they're like, oh, my parents were alcoholics, so I can't do this. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the hell does your parents have anything to do with you? You're gonna use that as a handicap? That's a crutch. My fucking dad raped me. That doesn't change my outlook in life. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't stop me from being who I am. So, I mean, you can't use that. That's a bullshit excuse. You know what I mean? That's people being lazy and then using that as an excuse to say, oh, well, I'm not successful because of X. Well, shit.
100%.
Okay, let's fucking figure out how to not be that person and keep moving.
When I think that's exactly what you've done with your life. And like I said, when we first got started, to me, I feel like you're just getting started. Especially with the Grind Hard Ammo, I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, we're really pumped about it.
And I wish you and Katie the absolute best with, that hopefully this one takes, and Finley will soon have a brother or sister.
I appreciate it.
So for everybody that wants to follow you and see what's going on with both the ammo, you personally, where's the best place that they can follow you?
So Instagram, you're going to have to hunt for me. It's at Austin Weiss, and you'll see a blue check mark. I don't know how on earth I got verified, but somehow I got verified a while ago. And then the ammo page, my baby is Grind Hard Ammo. So it's at Grind Hard Ammo, and you can find it there, and you can check us out. And anyone listening and anything like that, dude, I'm going to give you guys a coupon code for ammo, and just use the code GRATEFUL, and you'll get a nice little discount because I'm just grateful for everybody.
Well, I appreciate that, and we will make sure and share that with the listeners. And once again, this has been awesome. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I know you got a couple companies to run.
I got 3 people staring at me waiting on me.
Well, I appreciate it. And, thank you to everybody that listened. As always, if you have any questions.
No, man, I'm super pumped. I'm glad I was able to jump on here.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Be good. Bye, guys.